Good morning, Jessica. How are you doing this morning?
I am excellent. Just another day in paradise here.
Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Now, for those of you who don't know Jessica, she is the team member and president of Cimtech. And I'll let you share a little bit about that. But I just think it's so funny because every time I try to say Jessica and her employees, she corrects me and says team members. And even when I was posting online the events, I noticed that some of your tribe, when I was talking about employee retention, they were saying, oh no, it's team member retention. So that is obviously a really big thing for you. So I just want to introduce you and, tell us a little bit about, what you did at Cimtech and, why it's so important for you to have that term of team members when it comes to retention and what you've done over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So funny thing behind that, we're asked often, how many employees do you have? And we absolutely hate the E word. So we don't use that. So the answer is always zero. We have zero employees. We have team members. And why team members is so important to us is because there's no one person that is ever above or below the team. The team is always first. And so in every title that we have, it's team member is before your actual job description or title. Self-included.
Yeah, and that's an important thing, and it starts at the top of the organization. I know a lot of companies seem to want to, pawn employee retention or these HR workplace issues off on HR. Oh, that's an HR function. And it is the furthest from the truth because unless it starts at the very top of the organization and team members see that trickle down that, wow, they really believe this. This is just not something that we're, checking off a box or something. It's real. So what were some of the ways? I know that I know a little bit about your story, and of course people will hear more during the summit, but basically you walked in and bought a manufacturing company, not really being familiar with manufacturing, not really having a company, and you were able to go in there as a younger woman, into an established company and change that culture, or I was going to say enhance the culture because it sounded like it was pretty good to begin with. But what are some of the ideas that you brought with you and what kind of formed that philosophy?
Well, it first started with when people introduced, I introduced myself to the team or was being introduced to some of our existing partners or even customers. And I always led with the title as team member before anything else. And that trickles through everything that we do, our business cards, our email signature line, that team member is first. And so that was a little bit of a culture shift for the team here. Not that they were necessarily, called employees, but they started to see that and that trickled through. And so we then changed every team member's signature line. Everybody got new business cards and it all led with team member above all else. And then I really believe that actions speak so much louder than words. And so the next thing that my partner and I did was we rolled up our sleeves and got our hands dirty. And when I say there's no one person above or below the team, we cleaned toilets, we helped with maintenance issues. We were out with the team, breaking that divide, if you will, from office to the manufacturing floor. And I really think that resonated because it was cool to see, hey, we're all in this together. And I'm a cusser, so I will preface this. I said, there's so much shit going on outside these four walls. There's no reason that we as teammates and team members shouldn't all get along inside of our four walls. We're not against each other. We're against everything else that's outside of the four walls.
Right. And I think it's kind of, when you share that story about cleaning the toilets and stuff, I'm sorry, I just have to go back to reality TV with Undercover Boss. But I think that's why the show kind of keeps going. Is that it's showing these top executives of companies, getting dirty, rolling up their sleeves and letting their employees know that they care enough about them to experience, what they did. So what you're sharing is that this is so much more than reality TV. This is how real leaders deal with real employees and, and change the conversation and change the culture.
Well, and I think that goes to, you would never ask someone to do something that you weren't willing to do yourself. And that's at the core of what it is. And so it really has been magical. We have cleaning days, and, without being asked or told, people are taking out their trash. They're cleaning their desk. They're cleaning their workstations. Everybody, again, is in it, together.
That's awesome. So, and I know in our interview during the summit, you come up with, a lot of the things that you've done, but if you can think of one of your favorite tips that you've either that you implemented back or that you have brought in recently that the employees have just loved when it comes to engagement and retention, what would you say be your favorite thing right now?
Well, my favorite, and I talk a little bit about this in our interview, Lisa, is the flex time, the flexibility. And so just as there's a lot of shit going on outside the four walls, shit happens with people's lives. And so when we adopted the flex schedule model, that was a big game changer. And it's absolutely one of my favorite things, and again, life happens, kid drop off runs late, you shouldn't be docked for life happening. You may need to go to the dentist, or you may need to have an appointment, a doctor's appointment that takes some extra time. Again, having that flexibility. And all we asked for as a team here is communication within that flexibility. So whether it's, being late, that flex time, working over for flex time, taking a longer lunch because you want to take your significant other to a special lunch, off-site, that to me has been my favorite implementation over the last 2 years of being in manufacturing. And it really is funny because a lot of other manufacturers are like, how the hell do you pull that off? And
Exactly.
And it was a massive undertaking because people thought, here comes this girl, she's crazy with this idea. And so we flushed that idea out with our most tenured team members. We had a team member that's been here 35 years, and he's like, there's no way in hell this is going to work. And I'm like, well, I want you to tell me why. Like, what are the things that can go wrong? And then we built a work back plan to avoid those obstacles.
Yeah. So, you talked about communication and taking into account the wisdom of somebody who had been there for 35 years, making that person know that they count, and kind of challenging them to say, well, tell me why it won't work, because I know that if people are listening to our conversation and they're listening to our interview, they're going to be the same thing. It's a manufacturing plant. People have to be on the floor. We have shifts here, there's time. And it just all coming back to that communication, being open. So over the course of when you first had this idea to the smooth implementation that it sounds like you finally got to because of the communication, what kind of was that timeline?
Sure. So and I remember this very distinctly, we rolled it out with our leadership team on May 15th. And by the end of May, we had rolled it out to the entire team here at Cimtech. And that was not just our team here at our headquarters. That was, we were in the midst of all of that, acquiring 2 other manufacturing firms and a different location across the river. So we were able to do that once we had the buy-in from the leadership team. And so I would say leading with optimism is probably the key takeaway there. Right. Is, you can find a million reasons why something won't work. And it's to make your plan optimistically around those obstacles or the potential pitfalls that could happen. And of course, it was a little rocky at first. We were running multiple shifts and we're like, well, shit, how are we going to close it down? Or,
Right,
we need to make sure that things are under dual control and that there's safety measures in place and, who has what key and that type of thing. But we got there pretty quickly and it's been great. And honestly, from a culture build that resonates out into the workforce, that's been very very appealing, because that is a benefit. It's more than just your hourly rate. It's more than just the fringe benefits that you have, but you're having a work-life blend is a huge benefit.
Right, right. Well, I am so excited. The event is coming up. We're only a couple days away. It's November 9th to the 11th. Jessica will be with us on November. I just, I have my calendar open. November 11th at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time.
So it's it's 11, 11, 11. I'm really pumped about that.
There you go. Well, and Jessica's joining 24 other experts over the course of these days. You'll be able to come to the event, and even though the events, the interviews are pre-recorded, because goodness knows we didn't want to, tempt the technology gods. Jessica and many of the other speakers are going to be on the live chat, so you'll be able to share some insight, ask some questions. We want to bring this as close to having a really great experience as we can, without having to get on a plane, without having to sleep in a hotel, and yet just bring you real world insight from manufacturing professionals who are doing it and doing it well in their everyday. So make sure you get your ticket. I'm going to put the link in this post, but stay tuned for Jessica. Please share this with your friends. This is going to be a fantastic event, and I can't wait to see you at the summit. And Jessica, I'll see you next week.
Sounds good, Lisa. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.